And now Ryan's going to tell us about performance windows.
Performance windows. On the other hand, the performance window is the time frame where the dependent variables get created. The performance window comes after the observation window. Some factors that we need to consider to pick an optimal performance window include ensuring the length of the window has sufficient time for the account to mature, and that we have enough numbers, positive and negative outcomes, in our sample. One of the most common tools to determine the optimal window is vintage analysis. Now Ryan will explain in more depth what vintage analysis is.
Thanks, Ryan.
So you've taken out a loan, but how does the bank know whether or not you're going to pay it back? Maybe they could compare you with other people who are similar to you and see if those people have defaulted. This is exactly what they do through a process known as vintage analysis. Ultimately, it's a process of grouping borrowers into a series of categories that may be used to predict whether or not a borrower will default. Banks really want to know this because in the early stages of a loan, there is a lot of uncertainty. Most people would agree that a loan has been getting paid on time for the past 10 years has a higher likelihood of getting paid in the next month than, say, a brand new loan, because it is said to be more mature. Just like a fine wine, loans get better with time, or in this case, less risky. And just like in wine, borrowers are classified by a vintage. For wine, a vintage is a date when grapes were harvested that is descriptive of the conditions the grapes grew under, like region and weather. Vintages are then used to compare against other vintages. For loans, a vintage is descriptive of date, region, and many other demographics that help banks compare you to another vintage of borrowers. Some things to keep in mind. Vintage analysis is used to determine if the amount of time a loan has been taken out affects its quality. Is the MOB of variable significant? Second point to keep in mind. A vintage is descriptive of the conditions of a series of loans. Third point, having a vintage gives us a way of comparing loans based on many variables.
And now back to Ida.